Hey guys, it's Blue Eyes Master 91, and I thought I would do a Red Dragon Archfiend deck profile for ya. So let's dive in. So my take on the Jack Atlas Resonator deck is going to be a little different. I did draw some inspiration from my Red Dragon Rocket deck. Just because I absolutely loved that deck. It was inconsistent, unfortunately, but it worked well together. It was just unfortunately very difficult to find a good balance because the Rocket cards are fantastic and the Resonator monsters don't really work with them. So, that being said, I am running 3 copies of the brand new Soul Resonator and then 3 copies of Vision Resonator. I'm going to continue my theme of not going into a lot of detail on what each card does. The deck has been out for a little bit. I'm sure a lot of you have picked it up and know what these cards do. I'm not going to, hold your hand and treat you like you're 5. I'm sure you know what these cards do. You don't own the deck. I'm sure you've played someone who has used it at locals. It's a very, very good deck. 2 copies of Synchron Resonator and then 2 copies of Crimson Resonator round out the Resonator monsters in the deck. So, getting into the non-Resonator monsters, a card that not a lot of people are using that have me questioning a little bit is 2 copies of the Tuner Monster Red Nova. Red Nova was used by Jack in the anime, and it is a fantastic monster. It is a level 1 fire tuner monster. If a level 8 or higher dragon synchro monster is on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon Red Nova once per turn this way. If this card is sent to the graveyard for a synchro summon that uses 2 or more tuner monsters as material, you can special summon 1 fire fiend monster from your deck in defense. So, with Red Nova in the deck, it would allow you to go in and special summon out your copies of Crimson or even your copies of Soul. It's a phenomenal monster to have. Not a lot of people are using it. I think it's a really really cool tech card to have, and it brings a little bit more consistency and life into the deck, in my opinion. Getting into the non-tuners, we have 2 copies of Wandering King, uh, Wildwind. I absolutely love this monster. He is fantastic. He can be special summoned from your hand. And then we have 3 copies of Bone Archfiend. Similarly, he can also be special summoned from your hand, but I believe you have to send something to the graveyard. Yeah, you have to send a card from your hand to the graveyard to special summon it to the field, but it is a fantastic card to have. He is a fantastic 3 of. Getting into the rest of the deck now, we have 2 copies of Bestial Lubellion, because of course we do, why not? We have our single copy of Magma, 2 copies of Sevenir, and then 1 copy of Drursworm. That does round out the monsters of the deck. So let's dive into our spells and traps. Uh, when I was altering the 3 structure decks I bought to build this deck, I really wanted it to be as fun as possible. I wanted it to be as consistent as possible while also having a more uniqueness to it. I saw it played at my locals with just the 3 structure decks, and it was extremely powerful. But I knew that there was more to the deck that could be tapped into, and that's what I try to do with my personal build for it. Um, it's a deck that I really really liked. Even back during the 5Ds era, Red Dragon Archfiend was one of my favorite synchro monsters to use, and seeing Jack get a lot of love now as one of the best duelists in the entire franchise In my opinion, Jack Atlas is one of the best duelists in the entire franchise, only second by Seto Kaiba. I believe it goes, for rivals at least, it goes Kaiba, Jack, and then Varus in the dub or Revolver in the sub for Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns. I believe that Jack and Varus are almost equal in skill. I don't know which one would have more skill. In my opinion, I don't know which one has more abilities. I don't know who would win in a match. Personally, I think it would be Jack. I think that he just has just that little bit more oomph in his game. He can, obviously, if we're going with the 5D specifically, that variant of him, he can tap into the power of the Crimson Dragon and, magically gain a tuner monster that was clearly not in his deck to begin with in Majestic Dragon, and he can somehow have a random card in the extra deck that was clearly not there in Majestic Red. Same thing for you, say, with the Majestic Dragon and then Majestic Star. I definitely do not think that those are a part of their actual decks. I think that the Crimson Dragon just, looks at the extra deck and is like, oh, you're not going to go into that anymore. You're going to use this instead. And it's a cool idea. I love the idea of the Crimson Dragon, but the feeling of it being a cop out to give someone a way to win, that doesn't sit well with me. Jack is a fantastic duelist. He should not need the Crimson Dragon to basically give him a free win. And that's what it always seemed like when the Majestic monsters would be summoned. You knew that the game was over and that the hero was going to win. Getting back into the deck profile, we have 3 copies of Crimson Gaia, 3 copies of Resonator Call, and then a single copy of Absolute Power Force. Absolute Power Force is insane. It allows a target a red dragon archfiend you control. If that monster you control battles an opponent's monster this turn, apply these effects until the end of the damage step. It gains 1,000 attack points. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effect. If it attacks a monster and defends, it deals piercing damage, and any battle damage your opponent takes is doubled. So basically, it's taking the Blue S Chaos Max Dragon and stealing some of his effects because he deals double piercing damage. He's unaffected by your opponent's card effects, so they're not going to try to activate anything anyway, but that spell is absolutely nutty. Another fairly crazy card is Synchro Rumble. Target 1 tuner or level 7 or 8 dragon synchro in your graveyard. Special summon it in defense mode. Also, for the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except Synchro monsters. If a level 7 or 8 Synchro monster or Crimson Dragon you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this card from the graveyard. Instead, you can only activate Synchro Rumble once per turn. I absolutely love this spell. I do have a second copy in my side deck. I just haven't figured out what to take out for it. But I really, really like this spell. I think it is something that it gives the deck that much more consistency using it. Like, it's something that lets you, resummon out a synchro monster and then you can protect it. So it's just something that really does give off a little bit more love to your deck. I am running 2 copies of Droplet because Droplet is a fairly good card in this format right now. Of course, I say that in November, not knowing how the format will change. I do have a copy of Branded Regained, Foolish Burial, 2 copies of Book of Eclipse, a single copy of Feather Duster, and then Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn, again, being able to revive your synchro monsters is fairly useful in this deck. You can also revive your tuner monsters, which is even more important, I think. Getting into the trap cards real quick, we have a single copy of Red Zone. Another really, really good new trap. We have a Branded Beast. And then 3 copies of Imperm. Imperm is in here because it just adds a little bit more protection to your cards while also being a really, really useful hand trap. And since this deck doesn't have a lot of those, I believe that the only hand traps it has would be Imperm. I know I'm not running Ash. Yeah. Aside from the Bestials, there's no real hand traps in this deck. So that's it for the main deck. Let's dive into our extra deck. So in the extra deck, I have a single copy that I pulled, and it is a misprint, believe it or not. A single copy of Red Supernova Dragon. And if you look at it carefully, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, the E on the red is kind of missing. Like, you see the bottom of the E, but that's about it. It's just a small misprint, but it's pretty cool. Supernova Dragon is the big boss monster of the deck. It is a phenomenal monster, and it's just it can crush just about anyone if you have enough tuners in the graveyard. We do have a single copy of the original Red Nova Dragon. Nova's in here because while Supernova Dragon is extremely powerful, it is also extremely difficult to summon because it takes 3 tuner monsters to summon. And you have to use a synchro monster to summon it as well. So, that being said, there's not a lot of wiggle room to go into such a powerful monster. We have a single copy of the original Red Dragon Archfiend. I feel like the deck would not be complete unless this card was in it. We have 2 copies of the new Scarred Red Dragon Archfiend. We have a single copy of Scarlight. Excuse me. Scarlight's fantastic in the deck. Obviously, we have a single copy of Hot Red Dragon Archfiend. We have Hot Dragon Archfiend Bane. And then, in case that wasn't enough, we have Tyrant Dragon. Tyrant Red Dragon Archfiend. I am not running King Calamity. While he is a phenomenal monster, he does not work in this deck build. A lot of people who have done profiles for this deck are not running him for good reason. There are other decks that summon him better and easier. Rounding out our extra deck now, we have 2 copies of Red Rising, a single copy of Draco Berserker of the Tenyi, because he's extremely useful, 1 copy of Void Ogre, and then a single copy of Kubelt the Blade Dragon, who, in my opinion, kind of looks like a variant of Stardust Dragon, if you look at him. Like, Stardust Dragon and him share a very, very similar, more reptilian look to their build. Red Dragon Archfiend looks more dragonoid. He doesn't look like a giant lizard, basically. Red Dragon Archfiend looks a lot like the Blue Eyes monsters and cards of that nature. whereas Stardust Dragon looks more similar to a lizard who would fit more in with the dinosaurs kind of thing. Like, Stardust Dragon is a phenomenal, cool looking monster, but uh, he does look like a dragon. I'm not saying he doesn't, but when you get down to it, he looks more reptilian than Dragon Archfiend does. Dragon Archfiend looks like a very, very big, very powerful looking traditional dragon. You know, like this looks more of a like a dragon than this. Yes, it has wings. Yes, it looks really cool, but it also almost looks like a Charizard. Honestly, like it's a really cool card. But there's that difference between just looking like a lizard, but being called a dragon, and then looking like a lizard, looking like a dragon, and not being called a dragon, and that's the Charizard effect. I feel like Charizard is a dragon, but is never called a dragon unless you Mega Evolve it into Charizard X, and you can't do that anymore unless you have that the Gen 6 and 7 games. Whereas with Stardust Dragon, I feel like he would fit in that. Yes, he looks like a dragon. Yes, he is a dragon by the terms of the card game for Yu-Gi-Oh! But he could also fit in with more of a lizard-looking monster, like the skinnier neck, just having more of a V-looking face, the thinner wings, the slender body. It's almost more lizard based than dragons. When you think dragons, you think super muscular, bigger heads, giant horns, that kind of stuff. So, I mean, again, I'm not bashing Stardust Dragon. He is another one of my favorite 5D monsters. But when you look at all the signer monsters, the only ones that look like a traditional dragon would be Dragon Archfiend and Ancient Fairy Dragon. The rest, Black Rose Dragon has the plant theme going. Yes, it looks more dragonish than, say, Stardust does, but it still looks very different than what you would think of when you think traditional dragon. Blackwing Dragon is, again, it looks really cool. One of my favorite monsters. I run it in a lot of decks. But again, when you think dragons, you don't think something that looks kind of more like a crow with the design. And that's what I'm getting into. Like, just the way the cards look, you could say, yes, that's definitely a dragon. But at the same time, if someone says it doesn't look like a dragon, they're not wrong either. And I realize I'm ranting, so I will wrap it up here. So let me know what you guys think. Again, I'm not bashing on any of these cards. I absolutely love the 5Ds era. I think that it was one of the best eras in the entire franchise. And in terms of the card game in real life, I think that it introduced a lot of really, really cool aspects to the game. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment sections. Again, I will try to get to everyone as quickly as I can. I'm hoping that I'm almost out of peak or just ending peak with FedEx by the time I'm posting this. I'm recording it back on November 12th, so we'll see how that works timeline wise. But if you enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe, and again, let me know down in the comments what you guys think of just the design, and if you agree or disagree with me saying that Stardust looks more reptilian than a more traditional dragon, or if you think I'm just completely off my rocker because of whatever. Let me know what you guys think down below, and I will catch you guys in the next video.